I thought I was just heading home for a quiet weekend. Nothing more than a break from work and maybe some home-cooked meals. What I didn't expect was him. And I never could have imagined what would happen between us that night. The closeness, the touch, the unspoken things we promised forget. But once it started, we couldn't stop. And everything changed. It all began during a short holiday. I hadn't been home in over 6 months. Work had taken over my life. Long hours, late nights, coffee-fueled mornings that blurred into one. So, when Mom called and asked if I'd come home for the weekend, I didn't even think twice. I needed rest, some peace, a chance to breathe. I thought it would be simple, familiar, but I didn't expect Noah. As I stepped to the front door, my duffel bag still hanging off one shoulder, the first voice I heard was Mom's. Well, look who finally decided to show up. I turned, and there he was, Noah, my older brother, leaning casually against the doorway, that same half-smirk on his face, arms crossed, like he was waiting for me to prove something. Same dark hair as mine, but longer now, a little messier. He looked older, stronger. He took up more space than I remembered. Didn't know you were going to be here, I said, setting my bag down. He shrugged. Surprise? It had been over a year since we last saw each other. Noah had moved out right after college, working construction somewhere upstate. We didn't talk much anymore. Not because of fight or anything. We just drifted. Even as kids, we'd never been exactly close. He was older, cooler, always just a few steps ahead. I followed him around like a shadow back then, though he never really asked me to. Mom rushed in from the kitchen, apron still on, a bit of flour on her cheek. She pulled me into a hug like she hadn't seen me in years. Dad came in next, clapping me on the back with one hand, already handing me a cold beer with the other. It felt like home, warm, familiar, except it wasn't quite the same. Not with Noah there. That night passed in a blur of dinner and laughter. Mom's lasagna, Dad's corny jokes, Noah teasing me for forgetting how to hold a fork properly. It all should have felt normal. And it almost did. But every time I looked across the table and caught Noah watching me, really watching me, something flickered in my chest. It wasn't a teasing look. It wasn't even playful. It was longer. He was studying me. And then it was gone like it never happened. Later that night, I unpacked my old room. The posters were still there. Same creaky twin bed. Same scratch on the wall from when I was 12. Across the hall, Noah's old door was open. His things were scattered like he had never really moved out. Soft music played from a Bluetooth speaker. His work boot sat by the door. His scent lingered in the air, clean, musky, faintly like cedar. He'd changed. And I didn't just mean the beard or the broader shoulders. It was the way he moved, the weight in his voice, the way he took up space. I hated how much I noticed. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet, or maybe too loud in its silence. I lay in bed, heart pounding, thinking about that look from across the table, the way Noah's eyes lingered just a beat too long. Eventually, I got up to grab a glass of water, moving barefoot down the dark hallway. As I passed the bathroom, I noticed a sliver of light peeking out from the door. It was slightly ajar. I almost kept walking. Almost, but my steps slowed. I heard the faucet running, the clink of a toothbrush in a cup. Then silence. I glanced inside and saw him. Noah, shirtless, a towel hanging low around his waist, standing at the mirror, his back broad, his skin still damp from the shower. He ran a hand through his hair, sighing deeply, completely unaware, or pretending not to notice, that the door wasn't shut. My breath caught. I should have looked away. I should have walked past. But I didn't. I stood there, just out of view, staring like I was frozen. My eyes traced the lines of his back, the curve of his waist, the way he exhaled like he was carrying something heavy. And then his eyes met mine in the mirror. He didn't say anything, didn't move. He just looked, and for a second, it felt like he saw right through me. I stumbled back, heart racing, nearly tripping over my own feet as I rushed back to my room. I closed the door behind me, leaning against it like it could block the thoughts clawing through my head. What the hell was I doing? I told myself it was nothing, an accident. It didn't mean anything. But as I lay in bed, the image of him in that mirror burned behind my eyelids. And worse, it wasn't just the image. It was the way he hadn't looked away. The silence between us. The tension I couldn't unfeel. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to shake it, but it stayed. That look, that feeling in my gut, hot and heavy, somewhere between shame and want. The next morning, I woke to the clatter of dishes and Mom's voice echoing through the hall. Sunlight poured in, too bright for how little I'd slept. My body felt heavy, not just from exhaustion, but from something deeper I didn't have a name for. In the kitchen, Mom and Dad were packing for a wedding out in Kalatara. A small suitcase sat by the door. "We told you last week," Mom said, handing me a mug of coffee. "Your dad's cousin's wedding, just one night. We'll be back before lunch tomorrow." "Oh, right," I mumbled, rubbing the back of my neck. That's when Noah walked in, shirtless again, towel over his shoulder like the night before hadn't happened. He opened the fridge, grabbed some juice, and said, "House to ourselves, huh?" Mom gave him a sharp glance. "Don't burn it down." "Wouldn't dream of it," he replied with that same crooked smile. His eyes found mine, and lingered. They left around noon. Mom hugged me twice. Dad tossed us both a casual "don't fight" before shutting the door behind him. And just like that, we were alone. The moment the car pulled away, the house fell into a heavy stillness. No hum of Mom's laughter. No clatter of plates or Dad's off-key humming. Just me and him, and that silence. We didn't talk at first. Noah threw himself onto the couch like he still owned it, grabbing the remote with that same lazy confidence I remember from our teenage years. He flipped through a bunch of channels before landing on a movie neither of us cared about. I sat at the far end of the couch, pretending to scroll through my phone. But my eyes kept drifting. His legs were stretched out, relaxed. At one point, he scratched his stomach absent-mindedly, and his shirt lifted just enough to show the edge of his waistband and the hard line of his abs. I glanced, just for a second. He caught me, but instead of calling it out, he just smirked, like he knew something I didn't. "Want to play something?" he asked, nodding toward the game console. We played a few rounds of some fast-paced first-person shooter. The trash talk came quick and easy, flying back and forth like it used to when we were younger. He bumped my shoulder when he won, laughed when I cursed. Somewhere between the third and fourth round, the playful shoves turned into something else. A nudge here, a light slap to the knee, fingers grazing as we wrestled for controller. At one point, I leaned too far trying to grab it from him and ended up halfway in his lap. He didn't push me off right away. He just looked at me. I laughed awkwardly, pulling back. "Sorry, you're heavier than you used to be," he said, raising an eyebrow. "Stronger, too." "Yeah," I muttered, changing the subject before the air got any thicker. Later, we made lunch together. Nothing special, just sandwiches and some leftover pasta. While he washed the pan, he flicked a bit of water at me, so I flicked him back. That turned into a full-on shoving match. Both of us laughing, the kitchen filled with the sound of our footsteps and that unspoken, buzzing something between us. One shove pinned me briefly against the counter, his body pressed against mine, chest to chest. Neither of us moved, not for a second. I held my breath. So, did he? Then he stepped back, casually, like it hadn't just happened, like it meant nothing. But I watched him closer after that, and I noticed things. The way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. Those long, lingering glances. The slow drag of his eyes from my lips to my collarbone and back. He licked his bottom lip sometimes, slow, thoughtful, like he was tasting a secret. He kept brushing past me, too close, in a house that wasn't small enough to justify it. By the time the sun dipped behind the trees, the living room was bathed in soft gold and shadow. We'd stopped pretending to distract ourselves. Noah pulled 2 beers from the fridge, probably from Dad's secret stash, and handed me one. "You drink now?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Only when I need to," he said. "Being around me, is that stressful?" He chuckled. "Being around you is different." That word again. Different, heavy with meaning we didn't dare unpack. We sat on the couch again, closer this time, both barefoot, our legs brushed occasionally, neither of us moving away. The movie was some action thing, all noise and no plot, but neither of us changed the channel. We weren't watching it anyway. We were listening to the quiet between us. Noah shifted, slowly, rested one arm along the back of the couch, and without looking at me, he said, "You ever think about how weird it is growing up with someone, and then one day they don't feel like family anymore?" My heart skipped. "You mean, like, when people drift apart?" "No," he said softly. "I mean when someone changes. And suddenly, they feel like a stranger you can't stop thinking about." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of all the things we weren't saying. All the things we couldn't say. I didn't answer. I didn't know how. Noah shifted on the couch, his arm resting along the back, fingers hovering near my shoulder, not touching, just close enough to feel. Almost. He glanced sideways. "You always looked up to me, huh?" The question caught me off guard. I blinked. "What?" He sipped his beer, eyes on the screen. "Back when we were kids, you used to follow me around all the time. Thought I didn't notice." I swallowed. "You didn't exactly make it easy," I muttered. He smirked. "You annoyed the hell out of me." Then softer, like an afterthought. "But I didn't hate it." I laughed, unsure what to say. "Thanks, I guess." That's when he turned toward me, really looked at me. "You've changed. You say that like it's a bad thing." "It's not," he said. "Just notice." The air shifted again. Thicker now. Heavy with everything neither of us had words for. His eyes flicked to my mouth, then back to mine. The movie ended. The credits rolled, music swelling. Neither of us moved. The silence stretched thin, taut like a wire between us. I could hear him breathing. I could feel the warmth of his body, just inches from mine. My shoulder brushed against him. He didn't pull back. I didn't either. I should have stood up, said something, gone to bed, done anything to break the moment. But I didn't. I stayed, like I was waiting for something I didn't yet understand. And that was just the beginning. I woke late the next morning. Sunlight cut sharp through the curtains. There were no voices, no clinking dishes, no mom fussing over toast, or dad muttering about the car. Just quiet, too quiet. My body was stiff from a night of restless, half-sleep. Everything from a night before felt unreal. Or worse, like a memory I wasn't supposed to have. I could still feel the warmth of his leg brushing mine. Still hear the silence that fell when the credits rolled and neither of us moved. Still see the way he looked at me, like he was waiting too. I dragged myself out of bed, shuffling down the hallway, and there he was, already in the kitchen. He was shirtless again, standing by the fridge, sipping from a carton of orange juice like it was nothing. Muscles flexed with the casual lean of his body. His hair was still damp from a shower, curling at the edges. A towel hung low around his waist, dangerously low. He didn't flinch when I walked in, didn't even straighten up. He just looked at me over the rim of the carton. "Morning," he said, voice low and even. "Hey," I mumbled, suddenly too aware of every inch of my own skin. I grabbed a mug, pretending not to stare, pretending I hadn't spent the last hour thinking about him, about the night before, about that quiet but still under my skin. We moved around each other in silence, but it wasn't comfortable anymore. There was tension in every step, every glance. I brushed past him to reach the toast. He didn't move. I noticed how close he stood, always a little closer than necessary. Neither of us said a word about what happened, but everything about us acted like it had. He lingered more, in doorways, in hallways. His chest was always in view. His towel always sat a little lower than it needed to. And me? I didn't look away anymore. I told myself it was curiosity, just a phase. But it wasn't. It was hunger. Quiet, shameful, real. Around noon, I wandered into the bathroom to wash up and nearly walked right into him. He was mid-shave, standing at the mirror. The door was wide open. A towel was slung over his shoulder. Low-slung jeans hugged his hips. his torso bare, lightly damp under the bathroom light. I froze. He didn't. His eyes flicked to mine through the mirror. "You good?" "Yeah," I croaked. I meant to leave. I really did, but my feet didn't move. My eyes drifted across the line of his back, the muscle from his shoulders to his waist, the subtle flex in his arms as he raised the razor to his jaw. I didn't mean to stare, but somehow I did. He watched me through the mirror, eyes narrowing, just a bit, but he didn't tell me to go. He didn't say a word. Instead, he lowered the razor, turned slowly, faced me. Our eyes met, and something passed between us, electric, terrifying, undeniably real. I backed out before anything else could happen, heart pounding, hands shaking. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur. I tried everything, TV, my phone, folding laundry, but none of it stuck. Every sound, every glance, every heartbeat circled back to him. By evening, I couldn't take it anymore. We ended up in the living room again, pretending to be normal. Some old comedy played on the TV, the laugh track echoing in all the wrong ways. Noah sat on the floor this time, back against the couch, flipping a stress ball in one hand. I sat behind him on the couch, pretending to scroll. Out of nowhere, he tossed a ball at me. It bounced off my chest. I looked up. He was smirking. "What's your problem?" I asked, tossing it back. "Just bored," he said. "Thought you could use a distraction." Then he stood, stretched. "Come on, you still wrestle like a wimp." I scoffed. "I could take you now." He grinned. "Oh, yeah." And before I could blink, he lunged. We were a mess of limbs in seconds, laughing, shoving, adrenaline rushing. It started as a joke, but it didn't stay that way. He pinned me fast, one knee between my thighs, his forearm across my chest. I squirmed, breath catching, not from discomfort, but from how close he was. His face hovered inches from mine, his breath warm on my skin, his hand pressed against my chest, heavier than it should have been. I stopped moving. "So, did he?" Then slowly his hand slid down my side. His thumb brushed my ribs. A small, subtle touch, but I felt it everywhere. "You feel that too, don't you?" he whispered. His voice was barely audible, almost like he wasn't sure if he wanted me to hear it. I couldn't speak, didn't trust myself. He leaned in, forehead resting. We didn't talk about it, what happened that night, what we let happen. It hung in the air the next morning like steam on a mirror. You couldn't see it clearly, but it clung to everything. I woke before Liam this time. The house felt different, like it was holding its breath. Light spilled to the curtains, soft and golden, catching dust in the air like falling stars. I heard the faint creak of the hallway floorboards, then silence. I didn't go to him. I stayed in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee I barely sipped. My thoughts ran circles, looping over everything we did. The way he touched me, the way I didn't stop him, the way I didn't want to. And then he walked in, same as always, barefoot, shirt hanging loose, hair still a little messy from sleep. But everything about him looked sharper now, more dangerous. Or maybe that was just me. He didn't say anything, just grabbed a mug, poured his coffee, and leaned against the counter like it was any other morning. But his eyes, they didn't avoid me. They held mine for a second too long. And I felt it again. That gravity. "I thought you'd left," he said, voice low. "I should have," I replied. But I hadn't. He nodded like he understood, like he didn't blame me. We didn't speak after that, but we didn't have to. Every movement said more than words could. The way he brushed past me when he grabbed a plate. The way my hand lingered near his when I passed the milk. It was subtle, but not accidental. That was the worst part. Nothing was accidental anymore. Later that afternoon, we found ourselves in the living room again. The same couch, the same distance. But everything had shifted. The space between us wasn't just empty now. It was loaded. He sat on the floor this time, back against the couch, knees pulled up, spinning a bottle cap between his fingers. I watched him quietly, pretending to scroll through my phone, pretending not to care that my chest still buzzed from every time he looked at me. You ever think about it? He asked suddenly. I blinked. About what? He didn't look up, just kept spinning that cap. About us. About what it would have been like if things were different. I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. The question was too big, too real. Yeah, I said finally. Quiet, honest. I think about it all the time. He looked up then, eyes darker than usual, like he was holding back an entire storm. And still neither of us moved. Until he did. He stood slowly, walked to the couch, and sat down beside me, closer than before. Our arms touched. Our knees brushed. He didn't say anything else. Just let the silence fill in the blanks. And I let it, because we both knew this wasn't something we could explain. It wasn't a moment we could name. But it was ours. And we weren't done yet. We stayed like that for what felt like hours. Breath tangled, limbs tangled, time paused around us. We didn't cross every line, but we didn't pull back either. There was no undoing this now. Maybe I should have felt something, guilt, fear, shame. But I didn't. Not then. Not when he kissed me again with a hunger that made my heart feel like it was trying to escape my chest. I pulled him closer, hands sliding up his back like they had a mind of their own. I could feel the heat of him through every layer between us. The thrum of his heartbeat, the tension in his breath, the way his fingers dug gently into my side like he didn't want to let go. Words became useless. There was nothing left to say. We barely made it to the couch, still locked together, lips desperate and searching. Shirts were lost somewhere in the shuffle, breath ragged between stolen kisses. It was messy, clumsy, fast, like everything we'd buried had burst all at once. We didn't undress all the way, didn't need to. It wasn't about that. It was about letting go, about feeling something real after pretending for too long. Afterward, we lay still, half-dressed, sweaty, quiet. But even then, it wasn't over. He kissed me again, slower now, softer, like he was memorizing me in pieces. His fingers traced my chest with reverence, and when I kissed him back, something shifted. It wasn't just about need anymore. There was weight in it now, something deeper, something neither of us could name. He whispered things I wasn't ready for, soft, broken things like, "You don't know what you do to me." I wanted to pretend I didn't hear it, but I did, and I felt it too. We lost track of time. We touched like we were trying to make sense of something we couldn't say out loud. Again and again, every time different, sometimes slow, sometimes rough, like the seasons shifting inside a single night. And between the breaths, the only thing he ever said was, "Just keep it quiet, okay?" Every time I answered, "I will," I woke to the sound of a car door slamming. Then my mother's voice, echoing down the hall, like a sudden jolt from a dream. Light poured through the windows, bright, unforgiving, and Liam was gone. The space beside me on the couch was cold. My clothes were a mess. My body ached in ways I didn't know how to name. I moved quickly, pulled on my shirt, fixed the cushions, washed my face until it felt like someone else's reflection stared back. No one asked where I'd slept. No one noticed the way my hands shook. I slipped into the rhythm of home like nothing had changed. But something had. Something big. Later, I saw him in the kitchen. He looked normal. Too normal. Shirt on. Coffee in hand. Like always. But when our eyes met, something flickered between us. And then disappeared. "Sleep okay?" he asked. "Yeah." I lied. We didn't really speak again. Just surface stuff. Past the salt. What time's dinner? But beneath it, silence. Thick. Tense. Real. He laughed at Dad's old jokes. Complimented Mom's cooking. Played the part. But I watched him. Watched the way he didn't meet my eyes. And I couldn't stop asking myself, had it meant nothing to him? Was it just a night? Just a loneliness? I wanted to ask. I wanted to shake the truth out of him. But I didn't know if I was ready for the answer. That night, when the house had gone quiet again, I found myself standing outside his door. I didn't knock. He was sitting on the edge of his bed, shirtless, rubbing the back of his neck like he was trying to erase something from memory. When he saw me, he didn't speak, just stared like he'd been waiting for this. I stepped inside and closed the door. We stood there, not touching, not talking. Then he said, voice low, "It's not right. I know who we are. I cut in. I haven't forgotten." We stared at each other like the answer might be found somewhere between us. But it wasn't. He took a step forward. So did I. This time, there was no rush, no wild kiss, just his hands, slow and warm, reaching for mine. He pulled me in and I let him, my head against his shoulder, his arms around me like an anchor. He laid me down with care. No words, just closeness, just quiet. And we held each other like we didn't know what tomorrow would bring. He remembered every inch of me. His fingers trembled as they traced down my sides, not from want, but something deeper, something heavy, something that felt a little too much like grief. This time was different. No urgency, no chaos, just us. He touched me like I might break, kissed me like he didn't want to forget the shape of my lips or how I tasted when I was too tired to pretend anymore. Our bodies moved together slow, in rhythm, like we were trying to stretch time, make something last that we both knew couldn't. We didn't speak, not during, not after. When it was over, I stayed close, head on his chest, ear to his heartbeat. And then he whispered it. This is the last time. He said it like a promise, like surrender. I didn't answer, not because I agreed, but because some part of me didn't believe him. The next morning, the house was already alive again. Mom was out in the garden. Dad was shouting something cheerful from the driveway. I stood in my room, folding clothes that didn't really need folding, packing a bag I didn't want to carry. Liam didn't come, not at first. But just as I zipped the duffel shut, I heard it, a soft knock on the door. He stepped inside quietly, hands in his pockets, eyes rimmed red, like he hadn't slept either. "You heading out now?" he asked. "Yeah." A pause, a single nod. "Drive safe," he said. I nodded back. "I will." We didn't hug. We didn't shake hands. We just stood there, two people who'd run out of words, but still had too much left to say. And maybe that's the hardest part. How do you say goodbye to someone who became a part of you in silence? How do you walk away from something that never should have happened, but now feels like the only real thing that ever did? At the door, I turned once more. He was standing there, arms crossed, jaw tight, but his eyes were screaming. We said nothing, but everything was felt. And now I don't know what we are. Brothers, lovers, something in between. All I know is, whatever we did, we can't undo it. And this isn't the end. It's just something we'll carry. Quietly, if you've made it this far, thank you. I don't know what to think of all this, but maybe you do. Drop your thoughts in the comments. They might help me make sense of it. Seriously, thank you for being here.